A summer vacation in August 2023 should have been filled with laughter, photos, and cherished moments for 29-year-old Jaylan Hasty and her 3-year-old daughter. Instead, it became the final chapter of a mother's life. Just days after returning home to Columbia, South Carolina, Jaylan was found dead in her apartment at the Heron Lake complex. The perpetrator, her ex-boyfriend, who had accompanied them on that very vacation. Today, we explore a story that challenges our understanding of relationships, trust, and the often invisible line between love and danger. It's a narrative that forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about domestic violence in America, where seemingly perfect moments can mask devastating realities. Through Jaylan's story, we'll examine how a vibrant young mother's life was cut short and why her family is determined to prevent similar tragedies. On social media, Jaylan Hasty, known affectionately as Jay Sarah, shared glimpses of what seemed like a perfect life. Her posts radiated joy, snapshots of precious moments with her 3-year-old daughter, celebrations with family, and the simple pleasures of everyday life in Columbia, South Carolina. Her infectious smile and vibrant personality drew people in, making her a beloved figure in her community. Yet beneath this carefully maintained image lay a reality known only to those closest to her. Despite reassuring her father Timothy that she was okay, Jaylan was silently navigating a dangerous situation with her ex-boyfriend, Kenardo Bates. Like many victims of domestic violence, she maintained a brave face while dealing with escalating tensions that would ultimately lead to her tragic end. The statistics surrounding domestic violence in America paint a haunting picture of a crisis hiding in plain sight. Every minute, approximately 20 people experience intimate partner violence in the United States. In South Carolina alone, where Jaylan's story unfolded, the state consistently ranks in the top 10 for domestic violence incidents nationwide. In 2023, over 40,000 domestic violence calls were reported to law enforcement in South Carolina. These aren't just numbers. They represent real people, real families, real tragedies. For every story like Jaylan's that makes headlines, countless others suffer in silence. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence reports that 1 in 3 women will experience some form of intimate partner violence in their lifetime. A statistic that underscores the urgency of sharing these stories. Stories like Jaylan's deserve to be told, not just to honor her memory, but to potentially save lives. Right now, there could be someone watching who recognizes similar patterns in their own relationship or in the life of someone they care about. By sharing these stories, we create a platform for awareness and change. If you believe in the importance of spreading awareness about domestic violence, take a moment to support our mission. Hit the like button to help this story reach more people who might need to hear it. Subscribe to True Crime Case Tapes and turn on notifications to join our community dedicated to sharing these crucial narratives. Your engagement could help this video reach someone who desperately needs this information. Leave a comment below, sharing your thoughts on how we can better support those facing domestic violence in our communities. Born on April 22, 1994, in Columbia, South Carolina, Jaylan Sarah Hasty grew up surrounded by a tight-knit family who cherished her infectious energy. Her mother, Monica Hatton, and Aunt Stephanie Jacobs often spoke of how she could transform any gathering with her presence. Known for her fiery spirit, Jaylan earned the affectionate nickname Jay Sarah among friends and family. In her hometown of Columbia, she built a reputation as someone who genuinely cared for others. Her aunt described her as a beautiful sweet flower, a metaphor that captured both her outer beauty and inner kindness. Those who knew her spoke of her ability to forge deep connections with people, making everyone feel valued and heard in her presence. At just 29, Jaylan had already established herself as a dedicated mother to her 3-year-old daughter. Her parenting style reflected her personality, warm, nurturing, and full of joy. Friends often noted how she transformed everyday moments into adventures, whether reading bedtime stories or creating impromptu dance parties in their living room. Beyond motherhood, Jaylan harbored dreams of personal growth and community involvement. She was building a career while maintaining an active presence in Columbia's social scene. Her social media presence showcased her aspirations. pursuing further education, creating a stable future for her daughter, and maintaining strong connections within her community. Those close to her described a woman who balanced her responsibilities with grace, never letting challenges dim her optimistic outlook. The relationship between Jaylen and Kenardo Bates began like many others, with promise and hope. However, as their relationship progressed, it became increasingly complex, especially after they became co-parents to their daughter. Despite their separation, they maintained contact due to their shared parenting responsibilities. In the months leading up to August 2023, Jaylen and Bates attempted to maintain a cordial relationship for their daughter's sake. This dynamic led to them taking a vacation together, a decision that highlighted the complicated nature of their post-relationship interactions. Timothy Hasty, Jaylen's father, later revealed that his daughter would often reassure him everything was okay when he expressed concerns about her ongoing connection with Bates. The situation reached a critical point after their return from vacation. On August 24, 2023, what started as a regular day at the Heron Lake apartment complex in Columbia turned tragic. This date would mark the devastating end of Jaylen's life, leaving her family to grapple with the harsh reality of domestic violence. South Carolina's domestic violence statistics reveal a troubling pattern that contextualizes Jaylen's story. According to the Violence Policy Center's 2023 report, South Carolina ranks among the top 5 states for women killed by men, with a rate nearly double the national average. The South Carolina Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault reports that 42% of women and 29% of men in the state experience intimate partner physical violence, intimate partner sexual violence, or intimate partner stalking in their lifetimes. More alarmingly, in cases like Jaylen's where firearms are involved, the risk of fatality increases by 500%. Columbia, where Jaylen lived, reported particularly concerning statistics. In 2023, local domestic violence shelters operated at 95% capacity, with many victims turned away due to lack of space. The city's domestic violence calls increased by 30% during the post-COVID period, highlighting a growing crisis in the community. In the weeks before the tragic incident at Heron Lake Apartments, a pattern of concerning behavior emerged. After returning from their vacation, Bates's presence in Jaylen's life intensified beyond normal co-parenting interactions. The proximity of their living arrangements in Columbia created opportunities for increased surveillance and monitoring of Jaylen's daily activities. While specific details of the stalking patterns were not immediately apparent to those around her, experts note that victims often experience multiple forms of monitoring before a violent incident occurs. In Jaylen's case, the shared custody of their daughter created legitimate opportunities for contact, making it difficult for others to distinguish between necessary communication and controlling behavior. The family's later revelations suggest that Bates maintained a level of emotional control through their co-parenting relationship. This dynamic is particularly dangerous as it can mask stalking behaviors under the guise of legitimate contact about their child. Timothy Hasty's recollections indicate that his daughter may have been experiencing surveillance and monitoring that she downplayed to protect her family from worry. Domestic violence experts emphasize that stalking behavior in cases involving co-parents presents unique challenges. Dr. Lisa Aronson Fontes, author of Invisible Chains: Overcoming Coercive Control in Your Intimate Relationship, notes that shared parenting responsibilities often create legitimate reasons for contact, making it harder to identify when normal communication crosses into stalking behavior. The National Center for Victims of Crime identifies several patterns that were present in Jaylen's case. These include the perpetrator using child-related matters as a pretext for contact, maintaining emotional control through shared activities, like the vacation, and the victim's tendency to minimize concerning behaviors to maintain peace for their child's sake. The most dangerous period in domestic violence situations often occurs when the victim attempts to establish independence. In co-parenting situations, this danger period can extend indefinitely due to the ongoing need for contact. This explains why Jaylen's situation remained precarious even after separation, as the co-parenting dynamic provided opportunities for continued control and monitoring. The link between stalking and intimate partner homicide is statistically significant and deeply concerning. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 54% of femicide victims reported stalking to police before they were killed by their intimate partners. In cases involving co-parents like Jaylen's, this risk is amplified by necessary ongoing contact. Recent studies from the National Institute of Justice reveal that 76% of intimate partner homicide victims were stalked by their killers in the year before their deaths. More alarmingly, 85% of attempted homicide victims were stalked prior to the attempt on their lives. In South Carolina specifically, stalking preceded 67% of intimate partner homicides in 2023. The most dangerous time for stalking victims is within the first 18 months after separation. During this period, the risk of intimate partner homicide increases by 75%. For victims with children in common with their stalker, like Jaylen, the risk period extends significantly due to continued contact through co-parenting arrangements. Several potential intervention points emerged in the weeks leading to the tragedy at Heron Lake Apartments. The family vacation, which occurred shortly before the incident, provided an opportunity for those close to Jaylen to observe the dynamics between her and Bates. Timothy Hasty's concerns about his daughter's situation, though met with reassurances, could have been escalated to domestic violence professionals. The co-parenting arrangement, while necessary, created a complex situation that local family services could have helped navigate more safely. Columbia's domestic violence resources, including Sister Care's 24/7 crisis hotline, were available but unutilized. Monica Hatton, Jaylen's mother, later emphasized this point, noting how crucial it is for families to recognize and act on warning signs, even when victims provide reassurances that everything is fine. August 24, 2023 began as an ordinary Thursday at the Heron Lake apartment complex in Columbia, South Carolina. Jaylan Hasty and her 3-year-old daughter were at their apartment, going about their regular routine. The morning sun illuminated their home, where family photos and children's toys spoke of the life they shared. The peaceful morning would soon give way to tragedy. That day, Kenardo Bates arrived at the apartment complex. The events that followed would forever change the lives of everyone involved. Inside the apartment, while their 3-year-old daughter was present, what began as an interaction between former partners escalated into violence. The silence of the apartment complex was shattered by gunshots. When law enforcement arrived at the scene, they found Jaylen had been fatally shot. Bates was discovered with self-inflicted injuries but survived. Their daughter, though physically unharmed, was present during these devastating moments, a detail that would later become crucial in discussions about the impact of domestic violence on children. As we pause in our narrative of this devastating day, it's crucial to understand that stories like Jaylen's often contain warning signs that, if recognized earlier, might help save lives. The recent vacation, the complex co-parenting relationship, and the reassurances to family members that everything was okay, these are patterns that repeat in many domestic violence cases. We invite you to be part of this important conversation. Share your thoughts in the comments below about the warning signs you believe are most often overlooked in domestic violence situations. Your insights could help others recognize similar patterns in their own lives or in the lives of those they care about. If you're finding value in this discussion, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to True Crime Case Tapes. Your engagement helps us reach more people with these crucial messages about domestic violence awareness. Remember, sharing these stories isn't just about documenting tragedy, it's about preventing future ones. The presence of firearms in domestic violence situations dramatically increases the risk of fatality. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, the presence of a gun in domestic violence situations increases the risk of homicide by 500%. In South Carolina specifically, 71% of domestic violence homicides in 2023 involved firearms. A study by the Violence Policy Center reveals that in cases where women are killed by intimate partners, firearms are the most commonly used weapon. In 2023, 57% of intimate partner homicides nationwide involved guns. South Carolina's statistics are even more alarming. The state ranks 5th in the nation for women killed by men, with 75% of these deaths involving firearms. The intersection of domestic violence and gun access creates a lethal combination. When abusers have access to firearms, victims are 5 times more likely to be killed. Despite laws prohibiting individuals with domestic violence convictions from possessing firearms, enforcement gaps continue to put victims at risk. When Columbia Police Department responded to the Heron Lake apartment complex on August 24, 2023, they encountered a scene that would require immediate action on multiple fronts. Officers had to secure the location, attend to the victims, and ensure the safety of Jaylen's 3-year-old daughter, who was present during the incident. The initial response focused on 2 critical situations: Jaylen, who had sustained fatal gunshot wounds, and Kenardo Bates, who was found with self-inflicted injuries but alive. Law enforcement immediately secured the scene and initiated protocols for cases involving domestic violence fatalities. Their priority included protecting the integrity of the crime scene while ensuring the young child received immediate trauma support and care. The most profound impact of this tragedy falls on Jaylen's 3-year-old daughter, who witnessed the events of that devastating day. Child trauma specialists were immediately brought in to provide crucial early intervention support. The presence of a child during such incidents creates complex, long-lasting trauma that requires specialized care and ongoing support. The young girl is now being cared for by her maternal family, including grandmother Monica Hatton, who has taken on the responsibility of providing stability and nurturing support. The family has sought professional guidance to help the child process this traumatic experience while preserving positive memories of her mother. They're focused on creating a supportive environment that allows her to heal while maintaining connections to Jaylen's memory. According to the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, approximately 15.5 million children in the United States witness domestic violence annually. Cases like Jaylen's, where a child witnesses the fatal incident, represent the most severe form of exposure. Studies show that children who witness intimate partner homicide face complex trauma requiring immediate and long-term intervention. Research from the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry indicates that children who witness domestic violence homicide are at significantly higher risk for developing post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, depression, and anxiety disorders. The trauma can affect their cognitive development, academic performance, and ability to form healthy relationships later in life. In South Carolina specifically, over 20,000 children witnessed domestic violence incidents in 2023. The legal proceedings following Jaylen's death began after Bates recovered from his injuries. He was charged with murder and possession of a weapon during a violent crime. The Columbia Police Department, working with the Richland County Solicitor's Office, built their case using evidence collected from the Heron Lake apartment scene. The prosecution process has particularly affected Jaylen's family, who must navigate the criminal justice system while processing their grief. Monica Hatton and Timothy Hasty have attended preliminary hearings, facing the additional emotional burden of confronting their daughter's killer in court. The family has received support from victim advocacy groups throughout the legal process, including assistance from the Richland County Victim Services Division. The Columbia community's response to Jaylen's death demonstrated the profound impact she had on those around her. Journey Methodist Church in Columbia became a gathering point for hundreds of mourners during her funeral service on September 2, 2023. The public viewing at J.P. Hawley Funeral Home Northeast Chapel saw an outpouring of support from friends, family, and even strangers touched by her story. My House Bar and Grill, a local venue in Columbia, hosted a celebration of Jaylen's life following the funeral service. This gathering transformed from a moment of mourning into a catalyst for change, as community members began discussing ways to prevent similar tragedies. The event sparked conversations about domestic violence that extended beyond the usual boundaries of advocacy groups into everyday spaces. The Purple Fire charity ride emerged as a powerful community response to honor Jaylen's memory. Organized by her family and local supporters, the event brought together motorcycles, slingshots, and jeeps, in a vibrant display of solidarity against domestic violence. The choice of purple, the color representing domestic violence awareness, created a striking visual message as vehicles moved through Colombia's streets. The event did more than raise awareness. It created a space for healing and action. Participants wore purple, shared resources, and collected donations for local domestic violence organizations. The ride demonstrated how community initiatives can transform grief into positive change. As vehicles moved through Colombia's streets, they carried messages of hope and support, turning Jaylen's story into a catalyst for community action. In response to Jaylen's tragedy, Colombia's domestic violence support network has strengthened its outreach efforts. Sister Care, a leading local organization, operates a 24/7 crisis hotline, 803-765-9428, providing immediate assistance to those in danger. The organization offers emergency shelter services, counseling, and legal advocacy for victims seeking help. The South Carolina Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault has expanded its presence in Colombia, offering additional training programs for community members to recognize warning signs. Local law enforcement has partnered with these organizations to improve response protocols and victim support services. Churches and community centers throughout Colombia now serve as information hubs, displaying resource materials and contact information for those seeking assistance. Since Jaylen's passing, her family has transformed their grief into powerful advocacy. Monica Hatton, Jaylen's mother, has become a vocal advocate for domestic violence awareness, sharing her daughter's story to prevent similar tragedies. Her message resonates deeply. There are people just like my daughter who don't share stories, and that's where I'm at. I want to be able to save someone else's daughter. Stephanie Jacobs, Jaylen's aunt, emphasizes the critical importance of speaking up, even at the risk of damaging relationships. You may lose a friendship, but you just saved their life. The family regularly participates in community events, sharing resources and encouraging others to recognize warning signs. Their advocacy has created a ripple effect throughout Colombia, inspiring others to join the fight against domestic violence. Breaking the cycle of domestic violence requires a multifaceted approach that begins with early intervention and education. In Colombia, organizations have implemented several preventive strategies following Jaylen's case. These include enhanced screening protocols at healthcare facilities, workplace training programs, and educational initiatives in schools. Local law enforcement has strengthened their response protocols, implementing a lethality assessment program that helps officers identify high-risk situations during domestic calls. This program, already showing promise in other states, has led to a 35% increase in victims accessing support services. The Colombia Police Department now partners with domestic violence organizations to provide immediate advocacy support during domestic disturbance calls. They've established a direct connection to crisis counselors who can intervene while officers are still on scene. Additionally, local courts have strengthened their protective order enforcement, implementing GPS monitoring for high-risk offenders, and establishing mandatory counseling programs for first-time offenders. Domestic violence experts emphasize key indicators that might have helped identify the escalating danger in situations like Jaylen's. Dr. Elizabeth Klein, a leading researcher in intimate partner violence, points to several critical warning signs. Attempts to maintain control through co-parenting, minimizing concerning behavior to family members, and continued involvement in activities like family vacations after separation. The National Network to End Domestic Violence highlights specific behaviors that require immediate attention. When a separated partner maintains excessive contact beyond co-parenting needs, when victims frequently reassure others that everything is fine, and when there's a pattern of reconciliation attempts followed by separation. These experts stress the importance of understanding that domestic violence often escalates after separation, particularly in cases involving shared children. They recommend watching for changes in communication patterns, increased monitoring of daily activities, use of children as a means to maintain contact, attempts to participate in family activities beyond necessary co-parenting interactions. Research shows that early intervention programs have significant success rates in preventing domestic violence fatalities. According to the National Institute of Justice, communities with coordinated response teams show a 23% reduction in domestic violence homicides. In areas with established lethality assessment programs, like the one recently implemented in Colombia, victim engagement with support services increases by up to 60%. Studies from the Department of Justice reveal that survivors who access domestic violence services are 60% less likely to experience severe violence in the following year. Additionally, protective orders, when properly enforced, reduce violence by 50%. South Carolina's recent implementation of GPS monitoring for high-risk offenders has shown promising results, with a 70% decrease in protective order violations. In the year since Jaylen's story first aired, numerous survivors have come forward with their stories of escape and recovery. Elizabeth Horsley, a Columbia resident, credits the Jaylen's Voice initiative with giving her the courage to leave an abusive situation. Watching Monica speak about Jaylen made me realize I was making the same excuses, she shares. Today, my children and I are safe, in therapy, and rebuilding our lives. The Purple Fire charity ride has become a symbol of hope, with survivors joining as both participants and speakers. Amy Santiago, who attended last month's ride, now counsels other women through the transition to safety. When I heard about Jaylen's vacation with her ex, it mirrored my own experience of trying to maintain normalcy, she explains. Now I help others recognize these dangerous patterns. Local faith communities have established support networks, resulting in successful interventions. Pastor Karen Lewis reports that 15 families found safe housing through their congregation's domestic violence ministry in the past 6 months, inspired by Stephanie Jacobs' advocacy work. As we conclude Jaylen's story, it's crucial to understand that your engagement can help save lives. Every share, every comment, every conversation about domestic violence brings us closer to preventing tragedies like this one. Monica Hatton's words echo this sentiment. There are people just like my daughter who don't share stories, and that's where I'm at. I want to be able to save someone else's daughter. We urge you to take action now. Share this video with your community. Subscribe to True Crime Case Tapes to support our mission of raising awareness. Hit the like button to help this story reach more people who might need to hear it. Remember Stephanie Jacobs' powerful message. You may lose a friendship, but you just saved their life. Your engagement could be the catalyst that helps someone recognize their own situation or empowers them to help others. Leave a comment below, sharing your thoughts on how we can better protect those at risk in our communities. Together, we can create a network of support and awareness that saves lives.